Hey guys, my name is Ellen and today's video is kind of a two-in-one. So someone had really sweetly asked me to recreate the look that I had done in my September favorites video, and when I looked back at what products I had used, I noticed a lot of them were like holy grail favorites I've used and repurchased and loved for years. So I thought that I would, combine those two things, recreate that look, but also kind of put a focus on all of these different products that are holy grails and that I have loved for years. So the look is a little bit different. I mean, I used basically all the same products. The eyes ended up being like a little bit more like elongated and kitty catty. So it's basically the same idea. The shape is just maybe like a teeny bit different. I really enjoyed making this video. It's nice after testing a lot of different products to kind of just go back to the things that you know work for you and make doing your makeup really enjoyable and effortless. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video too, and if you want to see how I got this look, then just keep watching. Okay, so my base is basically done. I have done primer, foundation, and concealer, so I still have to set my face and then obviously, blush and bronzer and all of that kind of fun stuff. Okay, so the powder I'm going to use to set down my face everywhere except in my kind of like highlight areas is the Makeup Forever Matte Velvet Skin Powder. This one is a powder foundation and it is so beautiful. As you can see, I have very much hit pan on this. This powder does have a ton of coverage and it's very buildable. So it's definitely something that can be worn on its own, kind of like over concealer, and if you are wearing it over, foundation and all that kind of stuff, you can just use a very light amount of it and it adds a touch of coverage and it just evens everything out and makes your skin look completely like velvet. It's gorgeous. So the shade I have is R260 and it's like on the verge of being too dark for me, so with this color I have to really be careful not to put it anywhere where I want it highlighted, because with the coverage and the fact that it's just a hair dark, it will deepen up those areas really quickly. I'm using a damp beauty blender, by the way, and I'm just kind of taking it in almost like the areas that I would bronze first. That's where I'm kind of taking the majority of the product, and then with what's left on my sponge, I'm going to really lightly kind of set the other areas of my face. So you can see right there where I added it underneath my eyes, it deepened that area up quite a bit. So that's something I have to kind of be careful of, not to kind of overdo it in, again, the highlight areas. And then now for my under eye highlighting powder, I'm going to use a mixture of Bare Minerals Well Rested, and I'm mixing it with Kat Von D's matte highlight shade in Vanilla, which is this one here. And as you can see, all three of these are Kat Von D highlight shades, and I have loved them and used them and hit pan on all of them. So Well Rested is a powder that I've had a little bit longer than the Kat Von D one. This one I've had a really long time. I feel like this powder has been around forever, and it's one of those kind of like hidden gem products. It's actually supposed to be a powder concealer, so again, I'm just taking my beauty blender and dipping it in there, and then I'm going to go in and just go right over the vanilla powder, and then I'm just taking that, I'm blending that downwards underneath my eye area. And the Well Rested is such an interesting product because it is that kind of powder concealer. It is something that actually has quite a bit of coverage to it. So you actually have to be kind of careful with it, especially if you have like a deeper skin tone than mine, where using too much of that would look very kind of stark against the rest of your makeup. It is something that you can actually like really build coverage, so you can use that on its own, just kind of over concealer or without concealer, and you can actually really cover darkness underneath the eyes really well, which is really awesome and actually makes it quite unique for being an under eye powder kind of a product. It does have like a little bit of a yellow tone, so it has that kind of brightening factor to it, but for me, because I am quite fair right now, I love mixing it in with this vanilla shade, because this vanilla shade is very sheer, but because it is basically like a white kind of a cream shade, it just adds that brightness that I kind of need and I can't find in some under eye products because I'm fair. So this combination is just a really beautiful brightening kind of a combination, and the vanilla shade is quite sheer, so I don't have to kind of worry about the mixture of the two being very heavy and cakey. I'm just using the same mixture on my chin And then I'm going to go in the forehead as well. So I'm going to move on to bronzer. So this is the Makeup Forever Pro Bronze Fusion Bronzer. And this product is like my all-time, hands down all-time favorite bronzer. This is a baked gelée type of product, and I feel like when this product had first come out, it didn't necessarily get the best reviews because it is a baked gelée product. With these kind of products, ideally you want to use a natural bristle brush, and if you use a synthetic, you want to use a synthetic that has kind of rougher textured bristles, because natural bristle brushes, because it's a natural hair, it has kind of like a more porous texture to it. So those kind of ultra soft plastic synthetics will kind of glide right over these kind of products, and you will have a hard time picking up product. And on top of that, that kind of continuous action of gliding over these baked gelée products will create hard pan. And so at that point, it's even harder to pick up product, and then you have to kind of like scrape the top layer off, and then it's a continuous process. But if you do know how to use it, these kind of powders are actually the most beautiful and natural looking powders on the skin. It's basically a powder product. It's like the ease of a powder product, but in a lot of ways the look of a cream product. It looks so much more natural and just beautiful on the skin. Sorry, I'm trying to look for a brush. I cannot find it. So the brush I'm going to use is this Anastasia A19. This is a natural bristle brush, and I have no issues, you know, kind of picking up product with this kind of a brush. But this bronzer is just, oh, it's so good. It looks so natural on the skin, and it's really buildable, so you can wear it very, very sheerly, but you can also really kind of pack on the color if you need to. My favorite shade is 15i. They came out with I shades and M shades for, I think, iridescent and matte. And I mean, the matte formula is not super matte. Again, because it's a baked gelée, it has a kind of like radiant matte finish to it, and the iridescent ones just have a really small touch of kind of like sparkle in there, but it's very, very minimal, and it just adds a very kind of slight amount of illumination to the powder. But I find that the finish on both of them are actually quite similar. Like, there's not too much of a difference once you actually kind of get them blended out onto the skin. So I've gone through two of these bronzers in the shade 15i because I just love it so much, and I bought I think like 6 months ago or something, the shade 20M to try out, you know, just a different shade. And when I had bought the 20M shade, I think it was like during a sale at Sephora or something like that, I wanted to buy the 15i shade as a backup because I love it so much, and they didn't have it anymore. And when I went on Makeup Forever, they didn't have it on there either, and I literally emailed Makeup Forever and asked them if they were discontinuing this line or certain shades, and they literally didn't answer me. They never answered me back, and I haven't seen this shade anywhere anymore. And it makes me so sad, honestly, because I don't have a backup of this shade, and it's a bronzer that literally, since they launched this bronzer, I've continuously purchased this. And it is so hard for me to get through bronzers, but I've actually gone through two of this particular shade, so the fact that I can't get it makes me so depressed. If any of you out there have used this shade of bronzer and know of a dupe for this that's like the same formula and kind of tone to this, I know it's reaching, but you know, if there is one out there, I would love to try it out, because it makes me so sad because I don't even want to use this bronzer because I don't want to go through it, you know? Ugh, it sucks. Why do they have to discontinue like the best? It's always like the best things, like holy grail products that get discontinued, you know? It's so sad. But next I'm going to do a little bit of contour. So this is the Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder in the shade Light. So when I had first tried this powder, I had the shade Medium in, it was like a contour book that had like a cream contour and powder contour and stuff like that. And I liked it. The formula was really nice, but the color was not perfect. And so I eventually bought the Light one, and I have not looked back since. This is just the best contour powder I've ever used in terms of formula, color, everything. It's so good. It creates such a natural sculpt on the face, but it's such a kind of sheer wash of color that you don't have to worry about being too heavy-handed. You can really like just build up the color in such a natural way. It's so good. You know, you don't want Or for me, I don't want blushes and contours and even bronzers to be super pigmented. Like, I like them to be more sheer so that I can build them up. I don't want to have to worry about, you know, putting product on and then leaving like a huge stamp of product and then having to like furiously blend it out. I would rather those things be sheer and buildable, you know? So this really is very sheer and buildable, and just, you know, it creates a perfect kind of shadow. He got the colors so spot on. So moving on to blush, I have Chanel's Golden Sun. So this for me is truly like a holy grail product. I've had this for years and there's never been a time where I haven't like loved this blush. Like, I've never fallen out of love with this. I've always just continuously used this blush since I've had it. This is the same compact that I've had for years actually, and it's still just going strong. Like, I don't think I'm anywhere near hitting pan on this, and it's just, it's amazing. It's one of those blushes that goes with absolutely any look because it's a very kind of a neutral, like, it's a neutral nude rose kind of a color. So you can use it with cool tone looks, with warm looks, and it just adds this really beautiful, like, light kind of a flush to the cheeks. It has a little bit of an iridescence in there, so it does kind of highlight the cheeks as well, but in a very natural way. Like, it's not sparkly or glittery. It just leaves your cheeks being very illuminated. So that is blush. I'm just going to take, you know, that same beauty blender that I used with my matte kind of highlight shades and just kind of go around the edges of this area just to kind of make sure it's really diffused. Okay, so my camera cut out and I don't know where it cut out, but the highlighter I used is this Hourglass Ambient strobe lighting palette. So when I had initially got this palette, this was actually a limited edition palette that went out of stock for, you know, quite a long time. But I think, you know, enough people had asked Hourglass to come back out with this formula and, you know, this palette in particular, and they did, and I'm so happy they did because this palette is so good. This particular highlight is a very metallic, blinding type highlight, but the thing that makes it really nice, and I think the thing that makes a lot of highlighters very popular and universal, is when they have very sheer kind of base tones. So even though all three of these do have different colors to them, their base tones are very sheer, so they fit like a very wide variety of skin tones. And what that does is it doesn't really leave a stripe on your skin where, you know, if you're looking straight on and the light is hitting you, it looks, you know, like a very beautiful highlight, but then when you turn to the side, you can see that kind of darkness or that area where the highlight ends and the rest of your kind of makeup begins. Instead, this kind of highlight just makes your skin look really wet and glossy, and it doesn't emphasize, you know, texture and fine lines and pores and things like that. It's just so beautiful, and, you know, I can use all three of these shades in here because they're so sheer, and you can really pack it on and really make that highlight strong, but it always just meshes with everything else, and it always just looks really still refined on the skin even though it is so metallic. Okay, so now for setting my makeup down, I always do it before eyes, brows, and lips. And my holy grail setting spray that I've used forever and I always have in my makeup collection is the Urban Decay All Nighter. This particular one is like a limited edition honey scented one, and I really love the smell of this. I don't think you can get it anymore. For me, generally I actually mix setting sprays, so I will use something like Urban Decay's All Nighter to really make my makeup last, and then I will use something that's a little bit more hydrating, you know, something with like a glycerin, you know, ingredient in there, so that it really melts, powders down, and makes my skin look, you know, dewy and hydrated. But I'm gonna go in with this first. So MAC Fix Plus, like All Nighter, I'm sure is something that you've all used, and that type of a product is one that is not necessarily going to help longevity, but it does make your skin look like really dewy and just hydrated. And I don't have Fix Plus on me right now. I've gone through so many bottles of Fix Plus, but I just didn't repurchase it right now. So the setting spray I have on hand that I use in the same way as MAC's Fix Plus is this Armani Prima. I use this in another video, and yeah, it smells delicious, and it really makes your skin look, you know, just very hydrated. So I'm going to use this one. Okay, so brows are finished, and I primed my eyes off camera, but I used my MAC Painterly Paint Pot. I actually just hit pan on this the other day, which I'm so excited about. I've been using this forever and it's lasted me such a long time and it hasn't dried out. It's stayed very creamy, which is awesome. It's always what I use to prime my eyes for eyeshadow no matter what. And then what I do after priming my eyes is setting it down with an eyeshadow that matches my skin tone. The eyeshadows that I've been using for that are Anastasia's Fresh. Mostly, as you can see, that one, you know, I've almost done with that. And then more recently I've been using Anastasia Blanc, which is like a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more of like a cream shade, whereas this one has a little bit more color to it. So the eyeshadow palette I'm using, which is a holy grail eyeshadow palette for me, I love, love, love this, and it is the Tarte Man Eater eyeshadow palette. It has 9 shades in it. It comes with a mirror, and for me it's just like the perfect selection of colors and finishes. It's almost like the exact eyeshadow palette that I would make if I were to create an eyeshadow palette like right now. And I personally really love Tarte eyeshadows. I think that they have a nice amount of pigmentation to them, but they are really buildable. They last nicely on the eyes, and I feel like a lot of their eyeshadow palettes are, the color selection, like kind of coordination of colors is always really beautiful. So yeah, this is my holy grail eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to take this Pat McGrath brush that came in some kit. I don't know what kit it was, but I think it had like single eyeshadows. Anyways, it's kind of like a MAC 217 shape. And I'm going to take this Passion shade. This is, again, really light, so it's not going to do too much, but I'm just going to take it really kind of messily in the crease, and it's just going to start, you know, adding a really light amount of depth to that area. And it is kind of a slightly peachy tone, so it's adding a little bit of warmth as well. So with the same brush, I'm going to take this shade Purr in the middle, which is a really beautiful kind of a rosy mauve color. And I'm just going to take that kind of in the same way, but a little bit lower. And I'm just going to, again, build depth in my crease. So I'm going to take this Worker 1 from Sonia G, and I'm going to take this shade right here, which is called Saucy, and it's this beautiful warm brown. I'm going to take that and take it on the outer edge of the eye, and this is where I'm going to be creating that kind of most amount of depth, since this color is a little bit darker. So I'm just really building that up. I'm not really taking it much higher than my actual crease. I'm just really trying to blend it in my crease, and then with what's kind of left on the brush, then that's where I kind of really lightly blend it outwards. And with this color, I'm kind of trying to create like a little bit of that V shape in the outer edge of my eye, that kind of cat eye shape. And I'm going to take this more precise brush. This is the Morphe JH40, and I'm going to take that same shade, but because this brush kind of comes to a point, this is where I'm going to kind of create a little bit more of a shape. So I'm kind of blending it outwards and making that V shape, but I'm going to make sure to blend that out. So I'm going to take that Pat McGrath again with that Purr shade in the middle, and just take a super small amount of that and then really blend out that color. Okay, so with this same Morphe brush, I'm going to take that shade Purr and use it on my lower lash line, and what I want to do is kind of meet up with what I've done on the outer edge of my eye. So I'm just going to take this Meow shade right here, which is that kind of matte white, and I'm going to take it on my brow bone. And then what I'm going to do with what's kind of left on the brush is I'm going to really lightly kind of use that to diffuse the edge of the eyeshadow. And then what I'm going to do now is take this Foxy shade, which is this beautiful kind of like champagne bronzy taupey color, and I'm just going to take that with my finger and place that all over the lid. And And then what I actually did in that video was use another eyeshadow as well. And this I haven't had as long, so I can't really call this a Holy Grail product, but I did feature it in my September favorites. And this is the Block Party eyeshadow from Dose of Colors in Shall We Dance. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that just because that is what I did in that video. And I'm taking it on the same finger and I'm kind of just going right over that area. And this eyeshadow just has a little bit more of like a glittery kind of an aspect to it. So I'm taking some more of that just to kind of build that up. So I'm going to take this shade right here, which is called Hypnotic, and I'm taking that on this Sonia G Builder 3 shader kind of a brush. And I want to add this to the lower lash line, but right on the kind of lash line itself, and this is just going to add like a little pop of color. So now for eyeliner, my Holy Grail liquid eyeliner is this eye defining pen from Tom Ford. You have one side that is a brush tip and it's a little bit thicker and longer, and then you have a very precise, very small felt tip pen. So with liquid liners, I actually generally prefer a felt tip, but on this dual-ended pen, I actually use the brush tip a little bit more. So I use this to line my eyes, and then I use the other side if I want to create like a very precise wing on the outer edge of my eye. And then I'm going to switch over to that smaller point and create a wing. So I'm just going to fill this in and kind of see what the shape looks like, and then I can always build it up from there if I want to. Okay, so I actually forgot to do my inner corner highlight. What is wrong with me? But I'm going to take this shade Lace, which is that kind of lighter champagne tone, and I'm just going to use that and really saturate my inner corner. I love a really bright inner corner highlight. So in that video, I used this Tom Ford Emotion Proof eyeliner in the shade Brute Rose on my waterline, and this is one of my favorite waterline eye pencils because the formula is really good. It lasts really beautifully on the waterline, and the color is just so interesting. It's kind of like a metallic rosy champagne color, so it does kind of like brighten and help, you know, make your eyes look bigger because it has that metallic in there. Okay, so that is basically the eye look done other than mascara and lashes. So my Holy Grail lower lash line mascara, which is, you know, it's excessive to have a separate mascara for your lower lash line, but I always use the L'Oreal Voluminous mascara in burgundy because for me it is kind of like the same idea as using a brown. It's a little bit less stark than a black mascara, but it still adds, you know, that beautiful definition to your lower lash line. But the fact that it is a kind of deep burgundy color means that it just does this really kind of subtle pop to your eye color. Whatever your eye color is, this will make it look very enhanced, but in a very kind of, you know, sly, natural kind of a way. A couple Holy Grail mascaras for me are the CoverGirl Lash Blast Volume. I use waterproof mascaras because I have long lashes, but they grow like straight, like almost downwards, so you basically can't see them unless I curl the crap out of them and use waterproof mascara. And then the Dior Show mascara, and again, waterproof. Okay, so I'm just gonna really quick curl my lashes. Okay, so two things. I completely finished this eye up off camera because I had to import my footage to continue filming. So I basically did this eye and I finished it up, except there was one little detail other than the lashes. There was one detail I added to the liner that I wanted to show you, which I decided to do when I was finishing everything up. Really easy, really kind of, you know, simple thing. I took this black matte shade, which is called Midnight, and I just took it on this really small detailed brush from, I don't even know. This is not actually a makeup brush, it's a paint brush, but it's just like a really fine kind of long bristled brush. And what I did was I went onto the outer edge of the wing, and then I kind of started adding a little bit of that black, and then I took just what's kind of left on the brush and I kind of smoke out the very tip of the wing. So as you can see on this eye, it just is like slightly diffused and lengthened the end of the wing on this side. So I'm just going to do that so that it's even to the other side. And it just basically makes the felt tip liner a little bit darker and richer in color. And then obviously you're elongating the length of the wing, but in a kind of, you know, smoky way. Okay, so that's it. That's the only difference to the other side. So obviously to completely finish up the eye, I just have to add the lash. So the lashes I used in my September favorites video, as well as what I'm wearing right now, obviously, are these Ardell Wispies 701. And I really love these lashes because they taper inward. So, you know, if you're doing that kind of cat eye shape, they're longer on the outer edge, so they accentuate that. So I'm just gonna take a pair of tweezers and position those. So I always kind of start with the middle and place the middle. And then what I want to do, especially since I'm doing this kind of like cat eye look, is I let the outer edge of the lash sit a little bit higher up. So on the inner corner, it's, you know, completely flush to my lash line, but on the outer corner, it's lifted a little bit. So that is the lashes on. Nice, that was pretty easy. Okay, so for lips, I'm doing the same lip combo that I did in my September favorites video because a couple of the lip products are like holy grail favorites. I mean, one of them is a newer product, so I can't call it a holy grail, but it's amazing. So the lip liner is Marc Jacobs Pout Liner in Nudist, and this is my all-time favorite lip liner. I have gone through so many of these, and this is always a lip liner, always, that I have in my makeup collection. The second that I run out of it, I buy it again because for me, the color and the formula is just, like, it can't be beat. It is obviously like a twist-up gel kind of a pencil, and I kind of flatten out my Cupid's bow a little bit, and then I basically follow the lip line after that. And then I'm going to go in with this MAC lipstick. This is the Patrick Star matte lipstick in Peachy Peter. This was limited edition and you can't buy it anymore, but this is the best. Oh, it's the best. It's so good. I can't even, I can't. It's so good. I bought a backup of it, but literally, if they brought this back, I would be a happy camper. I don't know why all of my favorite products have to be limited edition or discontinued. It's just this super pale, peachy matte lipstick, but there's something about the kind of formula and the tone of it that's so good. So I'm just taking this. It's gonna look crazy. I know it's gonna look crazy at first, but I take that all over the lip. So I'm taking my finger and I'm blending everything kind of into the lip line. In that video, what I did after this step was I took Nars Chelsea Girls lipstick. So this one is a really pretty, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen Chelsea Girls, but it's this really beautiful kind of a peachy pink color. It reminds me a lot of like Nars Orgasm kind of a tone. It's like a mixture of peach and pink, so it fits a lot of different undertones. And this one has that kind of glossy finish to it. I take that just all over the lip. And then I just take my finger again and I blend it all in. And that's it. That was the lip combo that I had on in my September favorites. That is the finished look. I like how it turned out, but I mean, it couldn't really have gone wrong because I used basically all of my Holy Grail products that I've loved for years and years and years now. And the only way I could have messed this up is if it was me just applying it wrong. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful in one way or another. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe and have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Bye!